All right, everyone. Thanks so much for joining tonight. This should be a good session on how to write in the POW Voice. We did last night, we had how to write in MailChimp and how to use MailChimp, send emails. This was a great follow-up on how to actually write those emails. I'm going to actually pass it over to Donnie, who's way more of an expert on the POW Voice than I am. So Donnie, just take it away.
Thank you, Lindsay. Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us tonight. Really appreciate your time and effort here. So we're going to go over a little bit about tone and voice and some style guidelines tonight. I'm going to share my screen real quick. Share here. Great. So my name is Donnie O'Neill. I'm the digital content producer at POW. So I am pretty much in charge of a lot of the written communication on the website and our emails. And so I've spent the last few months since I started in August sort of honing that craft and really getting it to where it's second nature. And you'll find that after doing this for a little while that you'll be there pretty quickly too. So one second, my slides are out of place. Anyway, our agenda, we're going to look a bit at our Neiman research background, which kind of looks at POW did this huge research initiative looking at its audience and kind of where we can move them along from being outdoor enthusiasts and active in their communities into becoming more engaged in advocacy on the local level. And then we're going to go into, from there, how that affects our voice in our writing, our tone, some do's and don'ts, a few style guidelines, which has a lot to do with grammar and punctuation and little things like that. Then moving along to a bit of image crediting. We always like to credit photographers when we're including their work, and what to do when maybe you don't have a photographer name at hand. I'll take some questions after that. And then for the last part of the exercise, we'll look at a bit of writing on your end. Have you do a quick little writing exercise just to kind of see if you can put these guidelines into place. And then we'll take a few more questions and we'll sign off for the night. So the Neiman research, as I mentioned, was a way for POW to kind of analyze its audience and see where it could get it most engaged in turning from just an outdoor enthusiast into someone who's willing to take action to protect the outdoor spaces that they build their lifestyles around. And so at POW, we want to focus our narrative on the findings from that research and hopefully moving our audience along from, like I said, simply being passionate outdoors people to advocates. There are three kind of main pillars that apply to writing with that. And the first is education. Everything we want to implement into our writing needs to start with education and factual information, teaching our audiences about climate impacts that are relevant to their communities, really meeting them where they are, talking about a place in Colorado to someone who lives in Colorado is going to have a much bigger impact than trying to create a really global narrative that might feel overwhelming. And from there, you provide, some background on climate-related public policies that kind of can help address those impacts locally and then moving on to a more global scale. Then you move on to civic engagement. Like I said, we want to speak to our audience where they are. We know how passionate they are about the outdoors. And so therefore, we want to create relatable narratives and relatable storytelling surrounding the outdoor sports that can hopefully then bring them into the more hard-hitting, high-level climate information. And people really tend to respond to that kind of arc. And then from there, you move into advocacy and organizing. Once you've sort of eased the audience in through relating to them and coming down to their level, that's when you hopefully turn everyone into advocates and help them engage in their own communities, which for you likely means local alliance events. That last sentence there was supposed to be deleted, so ignore that. So we'll move on to voice. And everything we want to do I've said it a few times, we want to be relatable. We want to kind of sound like we're sitting with a buddy on a chairlift, having a casual conversation rooted in factual information. This reveals itself in using outdoor recreation nomenclature, trying to infuse some kind of outdoorsy wording into our writing, the words like flow or climb on, somehow tying everything into an outdoor sport is a really good way to engage people and sort of, get them into the conversation. We want to at most times remain positive. There are definitely certain circumstances where you want to relay information that may not be so positive, but everything wants to circle back to positivity and hope and progress. You never want to sound superior or, coming from a place above someone. You want to meet them on equal footing, face to face. And that also comes down to breaking things into layman's terms whenever possible. If you're trying to translate some information that might be super high level, you want to try and take the time to break it down to wording that is really understandable and again, relatable. We like to use imagery when writing. The outdoors is so imagery focused that kind of painting that picture in our writing is a really good way to reel people in. When possible, if you're capable of doing so, I know most of you probably are, try to infuse some lightheartedness and humor into the fold. That it could be witty storytelling or throwing in a pun here and there. I'm a fan of puns. Some people aren't, but I think when you tie it into the outdoors, there's some really great opportunities there, and maybe you'll make someone laugh along this journey. At all times, you want to be approachable. And again, you want to root everything in information and be informative and educational, making sure that people are learning something, because the more they learn, the more willing they will be to take action on their own. So that kind of moves into tone, where we'll kind of break down, a little more in detail when you're writing what to look out for. So I mentioned positivity, and we want to be positive at all times, but we also want to be honest. We don't want to lie or hide behind things. When writing or conveying information about climate change, we're not going to hide from the bumps in the road or not acknowledge challenges that arise. But once we outline those bumps in the road and those challenges, we want to circle back to positivity and making progress, a mindset that, individual actions can make a difference. And, a lot of that comes down to our idea of this imperfect advocacy where, nothing is going to be rooted in perfection. There isn't a wholesale solution to everything right now, but each individual action makes progress, and progress eventually leads to solutions. We want to be empowering as we want to create a trajectory for our audience to eventually become advocates. So we want to, when applicable, adapt our messaging to help bring the audience in and get involved. So if you're talking about something and you can somehow tie in a POW campaign or something that you're working on a local policy level with your own local alliance, then try and rope that in and give simple, easy steps to allow your audience to engage with that campaign. A lot of times that comes back to bringing up the importance of someone's community and someone's local spaces that they enjoy outdoors, and that can get them to really engage with the campaign and take action. Imperfection, like I said, it's all about making progress over perfection. The old adage is Rome wasn't built in a day, right? So we admit our faults. As outdoor enthusiasts, a lot of us will drive solo to the trailhead. We won't carpool, or we'll fly to the Alps to go skiing. We're riding chairlifts. We're not hiding from that fact, but we're acknowledging that these systems were put in place and it's kind of all we have. And so every one of us is forced to have a carbon footprint. So what we're doing is advocating for solutions that change those systemic problems, that changes the system, that puts climate change in the conversation as a status quo kind of thing. It's not taboo to talk about anymore. And in turn, these solutions that we stand by, protecting public lands, encouraging renewable alternatives, electrified transit, carbon pricing, they can become a more normal part of the conversation. And in turn, eventually, they'll allow us to engage in our outdoor activities with a smaller carbon footprint and without contributing to climate change. Again, information is key. Our audience really engages with factual scientific information and real world data. So while I've said earlier that we sort of want to soften our language and not beat our audience over the head with things, we don't want to dumb it down. We do want to be looked at as a viable source of factual information, but that also means that we don't want to come off as brash or superior or too negative. So like I said before, this oftentimes means taking complex topics and breaking them down into digestible tidbits, smaller sentences, less of a mouthful, something that our audience can really wrap its head around. And what I've found in writing is that when I break things down, if I can wrap my head around it without having to go back to new sources or research more, then it's usually in a digestible enough format. Avoiding wishy-washiness is key too. I know it's a fine line that we're all walking here, but we don't want to convey. We do want to be positive as much as possible and have a welcoming tone, but not everything is rainbows, butterflies, and unicorns, right? So striking that balance between positivity and transparency is key. And in your own writing, some tactics that you could use is not relying too heavily on exclamation marks. Try not to use too many cliches. Puns are okay, but cliches maybe not. And then trying to remove weak words, very, good, great, really, actually, a bit. That just means eliminating fluff and being definitive in your statements. And if you really want to get rid of words like very and good and great, I find a thesaurus is pretty helpful. I think I saw a chat somewhere. I don't know if I can see it. But if whoever sent that message wants to speak up, I'm all ears. I must have been mistaken. Okay, we'll move on. So there are a couple of do's and don'ts when writing. One of the big ones is when talking about POW as an organization. The first time you're going to write it out as Protect Our Winters, then POW each time after that. And the pronunciation is POW. Do not put periods between the letters. Don't say POW. When people say that, I often immediately think of prisoners of war, and I cringe a little bit. So that's a big first do's and don'ts. And then a lot of this comes down to language that's used to bring people into the movement and try not to scare them away. We'd like to say things along the lines of protecting our outdoor playgrounds, preserving our outdoor spaces, rather than saving the planet, as that's something that's it can be overwhelming and just too huge to really bring people in to activate. Instead of using the word activist, which, for better or for worse can have some negative connotations, try to use words like outdoor sports enthusiasts or even climate advocate is a better way of saying that. We like to call, like I said, we like to call the environment natural playgrounds or outdoor spaces rather than environment. That can kind of pigeonhole what you're saying into a different category altogether when talking about the environment. If you're really specific about relating with our audience about outdoor recreation, that's really the place to start. We have mentioned the word policy before, and obviously you can't really get rid of that word entirely because a lot of what we're talking about has to do with local legislation and such, but a way to soften that language a little bit and not scare people away is to say things like practical solutions or even just solutions. And again, progress, not perfect. And I can also send you guys, I'll follow up with Lindsay, There's a longer list of things like this that are a bit more nitty gritty, but these are kind of the big places to start when you're writing. Style guidelines. So this is actually really nitty gritty because it comes down to grammar and basic sentence structure, but we generally follow AP style guidelines. A few basic things to remember here. You don't need to go too deep into the AP style book. You don't need to buy a book. You can click on that link here. I'll share this presentation when we're done, and that'll help you if you ever have questions. So we do not use the Oxford comma. I personally think that there's a perfect balance between using it and not using it. It's sometimes necessary and sometimes not, but when writing for POW, we're not going to use it. Marianne just asked if I could turn my mic volume up. I don't know if I can. Is anyone else having trouble hearing me?
I don't think so. I think that might be your phone, Miriam. If you want to Slack me, or if you want to direct message me, I can help you figure that out. But I'm hearing you perfectly okay, Donnie.
Okay. Marianne, I'll send you all these presentations and bullet points after this, just to make sure you have it. So yeah, no Oxford comma. I hope none of you are too married to that, but when writing for POW, just try to remember not to use it. When using abbreviations, you're first going to spell out the thing that's abbreviated and put the abbreviation in parentheses, and then after that, every other reference, you can use the abbreviation. So for example, if you say something about the Environmental Protection Agency, you write out the whole thing, include EPA in parentheses, and then every time you use it after that, you can just say EPA. This is an easy one. Capitalization is used to begin a sentence, and you're capitalizing every word in a title except articles, the, a, things like that, prepositions and conjunctions, and anywhere else the AP style link will tell you to. That shouldn't really be a problem when it comes to emails, but if you guys as local alliances start to craft some different narratives, that might be something you need to look at. Decimals and fractions are always written out, 2/3, not the numerals. Money should be written with the $ first and the number following until you get to millions and billions, which you would write out as $ 20 billion. This is all pretty basic stuff I'm sure you're all aware of. Concerning numbers, the numbers 0 through 9 you're going to write out, and then anything above 10, you can write the actual number. When a number begins a sentence, then you're going to write it out regardless of how big that number is. A recent AP style update, you can use the percentage as a symbol in your writing. You don't have to write out %, which is kind of nice. And then when you're using quotation marks, always put punctuation within it. So if you're quoting someone, in this example, you would say, quote, "This is a lot to remember, comma, quote, she said." Don't use ampersands in any of your body text. You can use them in titles and headers, but never in the copy or the body of the writing. And then if you're unclear about anything here, you can click on that AP style link within this presentation, or I'll give you guys my email too, or you can go through Lindsay. If you have any questions, just feel free to reach out. So taking all this into account, I pulled an example from a recent blog post that was talking about the removed protections for Alaska's Tongass National Forest. I'll read it here and then go over kind of how that compares to what we've been talking about. It says, as far as outdoor recreation, the threat of logging and road construction has a large impact on the National Forest's large visitor base. While the federal government justifies removing protections for the Tongass to boost timber production and thus the local economy of Southeast Alaska, timber provides just under 1% of jobs in the area compared to tourism, which stands at 17%. Tearing down the old growth forests of the Tongass will be detrimental to the rivers, forests, and hillsides that provide incredible opportunities for skiing, snowboarding, paddling, climbing, mountain biking, and hiking. Have you ever skied deep powder through an old growth forest? It's an ethereal feeling, like these sentinels of the backcountry are granting you safe passage, securing you from outside forces within their wooded boundaries. So I thought that was a good example, as it kind of starts off by outlining some factual information. The federal government talked about the protections needing to be removed so it can boost timber production and the local economy. But in fact, removing a lot of access to national forests will have a detrimental effect to the economy, because tourism takes up such a big part of that, and outdoor recreation is a big part of that tourism. And then you try to relate to them on the skiing, snowboarding, paddling level, and try to throw in some imagery in there to try to get them to understand what it feels like to ski through powder in an old growth forest in Alaska, and really tie it all together with factual information, relatable sporting information, and a bit of imagery. So that was just one example I wanted to include. Let's move on to crediting. So you're gonna be including imagery most likely in your email formats and templates, as well as any sort of stories that you're putting out to your audience and local alliances. A lot of time you'll be getting that from a photographer, I would imagine. And when applicable, you're always going to include an athlete if you can. Always include a photographer credit, and how we usually do that is include a smaller font size right underneath the image and in italics, and you include the athlete up top and then the photographer below, just with those simple credits right there. And that really goes a long way towards building trust with creatives and ensuring that they're willing to share their work with us moving forward. Other times you can find images from organizations who oftentimes won't give photographer credit. So if you're getting an image from, say, Aspen Skiing Company of the Silver Queen gondola or something like that, you can just say photo courtesy of Aspen Skiing Company underneath in the same format as above in the smaller font, italicized. And then if you're using a rights-free image, then you generally don't have to give credit, but some websites ask that you do, and they usually include crediting guidelines on their website. Some rights-free imagery databases that you can use should you need images and you don't have any on hand. If you have an Adobe Creative Suite account, you can use Adobe Stock. If not, Unsplash is a good place to look. They have a lot of free imagery, a lot of outdoor imagery with crediting guidelines. Flickr isn't as great. There's not as high quality imagery there, but there's a lot of it. And then I've also found there's some really cool images on the NASA website that they'll allow you to use too. More satellite stuff and kind of nerdy science stuff, but those also have an impact. So I thought I would include that there. So now that we've gone through a bit of tone and voice and crediting and style stuff, I'm sure you guys have some questions that I didn't go over. There's a lot of information there, so take 10 minutes or so to chat through everything. Yeah, so open it up to you guys if you have any questions. Okay. Well, if there are no questions, that would give you more time to start this exercise that I've sort of put together. I'm going to copy this and put it in the chat after I go over it here. But I was hoping you could craft a 75 to 100 or even 150 word email which encourages your audience to attend an event for your local alliance. So this event can be made up. It can be whatever you want. It can be an event that you'd like to see in the future or one you've already attended. It's just an exercise. It's just to get you to try out some of the things we've been talking about. So remember to include important details like the date and the time, as well as the goal of the event. Why are you asking people to attend? What's the overall goal you're trying to get? Let your audience know what they can expect at the event. Who's going to be there? Are there any speakers? Are they going to watch a video? Are you going to go over local impacts in Colorado? And then kind of translate that to how it could impact them personally. Again, try to connect with them about their personal values, their places, and then lead them on the road to engaging and joining up with your local alliance to move forward with your goals. Obviously, write the copy in your own words. I'm not sure where you could plagiarize from anyway, but try to include a call to action that implores your audience to attend. I have 7 minutes here since I was kind of operating in a different time frame, but why don't we take maybe 10 minutes if you guys think you can come up with that in that time, to just write some short copy, and we'll come back and maybe go over them with the remaining time and see where we succeeded and some spots we can improve. And maybe once we come back, we can figure out the best way to share, but if you guys feel comfortable with it, love to hear what you come up with and kind of see where it fits in with the narrative.
Awesome. Sweet. Thanks. Yeah, everyone, you can turn off your videos too if you feel weird writing while the video's on. Totally up to you. And for those of you who are on your watching this recording, you can also do a similar exercise. I'll probably cut it so you won't be able to see the 10 minutes, but spend as much time as you want. And of course, we'll always give you feedback on whatever you write. So does anyone have any questions? You're feeling good? Awesome. All right, let's come back in 10 minutes.
All right, thanks everyone.
Wrapping up mine now, but I could go now or take another minute. Either way works.
Yeah. What do you want to do, Don? You want to drop them in the chat maybe?
Yeah, I was thinking about that. Yeah, maybe let's drop them in the chat. And then I guess I can read them out loud, or whoever wrote them can read them. Whatever you guys feel comfortable with. And then we can kind of go over them one by one.
Yeah, let's just drop in the chat and everyone can kind of read each other's. I hope everyone's cool with that. I'll drop mine in there. I think that'll be kind of fun to see what everyone came up with. I'm also interested to see where everyone's coming from on what event they want to do, so maybe I can use that for later information. Let's see. Yeah, Brian, that makes sense. Wanting to do an event at a brewery. Heard that from you a few times.
And Ben, there's nothing but beer and skiing here.
Cool. Oh yeah, some more
Event
brewery.
at the beach. Lindsay, your event's at the beach at A-Bay?
Yeah, my fantasy event is we all get to go to a basin together and be on the beach and drink beer, and Jeremy's there and John Kerry's there, so we can talk to him about what we want to do for the Paris Agreement.
Hey, if you do that, I'll come fly out to that.
Right. Also put our governor there because I thought that'd be fun too, Cool. What do you think, Donnie? How do these look?
They look good. I'll start at the top with Brian's. So he said, hi, insert name here. Dropping in your inbox to let you know about an event we are hosting next week on Tuesday at 7 p.m. at Something Brewery. We'll be showing a rad film about a group of people who go exploring in the Cascade Mountains and find surprising impacts of climate change. As a fellow outdoor enthusiast, we hope you share our passion in protecting the places we recreate in, and will find this event fun and interesting. Hope to see you there. So that was great. Right off the bat, I used some outdoor nomenclature dropping in. I think that's great. A little tidbit that I did not include in the style guidelines with 7 p.m. We're going to space that out. So it's 7 space, and then with the PM, you put a period after each letter. I will add that to make sure you guys have it, but that was my fault for not including it. So yeah, I think you're connecting people with the Cascade Mountains in a film that is about exploration and adventure, as well as tying in that climate change aspect, connecting with them on their standing as an outdoor enthusiast. You know, the outdoors are part of their lifestyle. Quick, to the point, and brief. I think that was a really good job. So a golf clap for Brian.
Thank you. Thank you.
Lindsay and her dream event. For our first in-person event in over a year, we invite you to join us for a POW party and tailgate at Arapahoe Basin next Sunday. After 12 months of Zooming together, we are ready to gather for a beach party celebrating all we have been through. We'll be joined by Jeremy Jones, John Kerry, and Governor Polis, where you will get to talk to them directly about how much protecting the place you like to play means to you. First of all, that's an event that I think everybody would like to attend. So I think you got the intrigue there off the bat. I think it's a really good job. It's conversational. It doesn't seem like you're coming from a place of superiority or above them. You're talking to them like you would on the chairlift or on the car on the way to the mountain. You tie it all back to protecting the place you love. It helps that you're holding this event at A Basin, which is a place steeped in local lore. It's quick, it's brief, it's to the point. So good job, Lindsay.
You know what I did though? 12 months is not written out. So copy editing myself.
Yeah, there were some grammatical things in there, but I wanted to skip over them. But for example, in person would have a hyphen in it, but I didn't know if we wanted to get too in the weeds there, because that can be boring.
Thanks for giving me the pass, Donnie. I appreciate it.
Okay, Jocelyn, title, Party with the POW Colorado Local Alliance. She gives the date and time there in the subtitle, probably in some sort of heading at the top, getting that over right off the bat, which is a strategy that maybe we can implement in our POW audience-wide emails too. So good job there. Get ready to drop into winter at this brewery with Protect Our Winters, POW, good job there. The Colorado Local Alliance. Join fellow shredders over brews to learn POW's priorities for the 2021 year and how you can help the Colorado Local Alliance achieve clean energy progress in the state to protect our playground, something even skiers and snowboarders can agree on. We'll kick the evening off with a screening of POW's feature, Purple Mountains, before our local alliance members speak about how you can contribute to practical solutions and clean energy progress. That's great. There's a few instances of adhering to our style guidelines with Protect Our Winters and POW in parentheses. That was great. You put the punctuation inside the quotation marks for Purple Mountains. Good job there. The only thing I saw was the sentence that starts "Join fellow shredders." Is a bit long, so I just consider breaking that up into 2 sentences next time. But you use the drop-in nomenclature at the top. You were really relatable, and you circled it all back to kind of a call to action and what our audience can expect from this event. So that's really comprehensive, and you got a lot of information into a short body text, and that was a really good job. So another clap. Okay, Stephen. Oh, Jocelyn said she has a longest run-on sentence in there ever. That's okay. That's why we go over everything, and this is, again, just an exercise in a first draft. So it was really good work. Stephen, Protect Our Winters is holding a contest to design the new POW Colorado special group license plate, and everyone's invited. We're designing a new license plate that benefits POW in some unique ways, and we want you to be a part of the process. If you've got an artistic eye and want to personally contribute to our fight against climate change here in the home state of Colorado, then here's your chance to make a difference. Help POW make a Colorado special group license plate and submit your ideas through Instagram for the license plate design by February 12th. That's a really cool idea. First off, I'd love to participate in that. So I think you're going to get a lot of people intrigued right off the bat because of how cool the idea is. But yeah, the language you use is relatable and on their level and not too high level. You know, you're appealing to artistic eye and a person in a way to personally contribute to POW Colorado's mission on a very a very local personal level, which is definitely going to get people intrigued. Another thing I saw here that I did not include in the AP style guidelines is when you're writing out a date, you can drop the TH at the end and just say February 12. I know it doesn't sound correct when you're speaking that way, but in the writing, that's kind of the way to go forward. So first of all, I'd love to see this come to fruition. That'd be a really awesome opportunity that I'd love to participate in. But second off, that's a really great job too. And I love how you're all fitting a lot of information into short, easy to read and clear and concise messaging. So good job, Stephen. And last one here from Danny. I will skip over your typos based on your last message there. I totally understand that we kind of had a short amount of time, so no worries there. Have you wanted to learn more about climate and how to talk about it more with your fellow outdoor enthusiasts? How will the powder be this winter and in the future? The Colorado Local Alliance of Protect Our Winters is hosting a happy hour with 2 climate experts on January 20th, 2021 at 7:30 p.m. to help educate and provide an opportunity for all your questions to be answered. Together, we can all learn more about our role in preserving the outdoors and how to have talks about this complex topic. Grab your favorite beverage and drop on in. It's great. So we'll skip over a couple of the typos there. A few little things, and Lindsay can speak more to this in terms of how to write out local alliance, but I think ideally it would be Protect Our Winters Colorado Local Alliance. If you just want to rearrange there next time you're talking about it. But again, I loved your last sentence there, tying everything back together about preserving the outdoors and kind of not hiding behind the fact that it's a complex topic and kind of putting it out there that you're going to talk about the complex topic and help people get educated. I think being transparent in the fact that what we're talking about is something that is really complex and oftentimes above all of our knowledge level and something that we're really trying to learn more about at all times is a good way to create a community feel and kind of the feeling that we're all in this together. So really great work there, Danny. And by everybody, yeah, you had a very short amount of time and you kind of ran with it. So that's really awesome to see all these come to light. So thanks for taking the time and indulging us with that exercise. I think you all did a great job. And if you just kind of stick to those style guidelines and clean up some of the grammatical stuff and punctuation, then these are all really great starts and would be an email that I would engage with if you sent it to me. So everybody deserves a pat on the back.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thanks. I was just going to say, you are correct. POW always goes in front of Local Alliance. And you can always write out, like POW Colorado Local Alliance. And then you can, after that, use Colorado Local Alliance after you said POW the first time, which is also in the guidebook if you ever want to reference that.
Great. So after doing that exercise, I don't know if anyone has, you guys didn't have any questions before, but if you have any questions as we wrap up here, I'm all ears.
I had a question.
Shoot.
Is there any preference on like first person or third person or like any issues with that?
I think when you're writing maybe email specifically, it's best to stick to third person unless the email is coming from a specific person and not the local alliance entity. So if you Hannah are sending a message and the email body says from Hannah Johnson, then it's okay, and that probably will come along as you get more familiar with people in the local alliance. And Lindsay can speak to this too, as she's more, on the ground with you guys. But in general, if it's coming from, say it's the Colorado Local Alliance, then you would just want to talk in third person and save the first person stuff for more personal emails. When it comes to drafting other kind of copy, I think it's a case-by-case basis. If it's a personal story or anecdote that you're telling to your audience that's going to relate back to something to do with the organization, then maybe it's more impactful to write from first person. But in general, most of the time, things are going to be coming from third person.
Awesome.
Anybody else?
Cool. You did such a good job, Donnie, that, it's all clear. Yeah, I think, as some of you will probably practice writing in the POW Voice, and actually you did the email process right now is sending copy over to Donnie and I, so we'll be able to give you additional feedback there. So I hope this is all helpful. I'm going to stop recording.